guns, most of the revolvers that you're carrying have 5 or 6 rounds max. You know, I like, my carry gun has 17 rounds, okay? And then I can also carry extra magazines, because you never know when you might end up in a gunfight, right? Especially these days. So, let's talk about, let's say that we've decided we're going to get a semi-automatic, and we've decided we're going to get a smaller semi-automatic that's easy to conceal, because that's how you're comfortable carrying. If that's the case, I can just go ahead and name some of the top concealed carry guns that are easy to hide, that also are very nice and comfortable to shoot. You can buy a small concealed carry gun like this, but you're not going to enjoy shooting this gun at the range. It hurts. It's a .380 caliber. But there are .380 calibers that actually are pleasurable to shoot and that you can shoot well. I'm going to give you the names of those guns. The small .380s that are top of the line. You're looking at a Kimber Micro Carry, a SIG P238, a Colt Mustang, or the new Springfield 911. Those are the top 4 small. I mean, when you're talking about micro size to carry. And as a woman, especially during the summer, you don't want to wear all those bulky clothes. You don't want to have to wear a jacket. You want to be cool and comfortable. It's just a lot easier to carry a small gun, right? This is not a small gun. This is a full size. But I'm going to show you some things to look for on this gun, and let's pretend like it's a small gun so that you pick the right one. You want to pick a gun that you can enjoy shooting, right? You don't have to take a beating. So let's say we're just going to look at the .380 caliber guns that I mentioned. Some of the .380s, like the one that's on my ankle, and the only reason I'm carrying it today is because I don't want to carry my SIG and get it scratched up. My SIG has pearl grips. It's beautiful, and it's got a beautiful, shiny, scrolly slide. So when my gun is going to take a beating, I'll wear a cheap gun like that. Okay, but one of the things you need to look for is the size of the grip based on your hand. Okay, remember earlier today we talked about the way you control the recoil of the gun is the way the grip of the gun fits your hand. And you've got to be able, any gun that you're looking at, you've got to be able to center and choke up here and have this gun nicely seated in the palm of your hand and still easily reach the trigger. So ideally, this gun is actually too large for my hand. See, I'm just getting the tip of my finger on that trigger, whereas my finger should be able to reach here, right? So I have to turn my wrist. And what is it called if you have to turn your wrist? What kind of grip is that called? It's not an inline, it's what? It's an offset. You're right, it's wrong. Yeah, you can't control the recoil as well if you're having to rotate this hand around. So, because you want to be able to center and choke up, because your weapon hand is what controls the back recoil of the gun, okay? So, any gun that you're looking at, you need to be able to center and choke up and make sure you can easily reach the pad of your fingertip to that trigger. So that's the first thing you look for. The second thing, if you can get a gun that's a 1911 design, it's going to shoot better than some of the others. It's going to have less recoil. It's also going to be a little heavier. But remember, the heavier the gun, the less concussion you feel on you. So it's kind of a trade-out. You want to carry something lighter weight that has more kick, or do you want to carry something a little heavier that you can also enjoy shooting, and you're going to be able to control that. So those guns that I mentioned, those are a little bit heavier, but they're still small. They're amazing to shoot, and they're going to be higher end. There's a reason some guns cost more than others. The higher end guns usually cost more because they are made better. For example, in addition to the grip, another thing you want to look for is the length of the trigger pull. This is critical. I mean, critical. We talked about your revolver has a long trigger pull and it's a heavy trigger pull. So in a crisis, in most self-defense situations, you're going to be having to do a double tap or a rapid fire. Bang, 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 right? If your trigger is out here and you're having to pull it this far before it goes off, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand your finger is moving like this. See how much my hand's moving? So your gun is going to be moving more, okay? But on a 1911 design like this, see how short that trigger pull is? You're doing this. So, I mean, who's going to be more accurate with their shot? The guy that can do this, bang, 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 or the one that's having to do this every time? It's a huge difference. So you look for a short, smooth, crisp trigger pull. You can always get trigger work done on your guns. Most of the guns I own, I go have trigger work done on just to lighten it up a little bit. I would not recommend that for people who have trigger discipline issues. Now remember, we talked about trigger discipline earlier. You got to keep that finger off the trigger at all times until you're ready to shoot. If you have a bad habit of keeping that finger in the trigger guard, then you don't need a lighter trigger. You need a heavy trigger. And that's why some revolvers don't have a mechanical safety on the side of the gun, because that trigger is the safety. You're not going to accidentally squeeze it. So there's the main thing too. You want a nice short trigger pull. Most all the 1911 guns are going to have that nice trigger. So the SIG, the Kimber Micro Carry, and those guns are going to run you 575, 600, 650 range. But you get what you pay for. Good guns, right? Another thing that a lot of the women are concerned about is the heavy slide. They say, a lot of the guns, the slide action is too heavy and they can't pull it. The M&P Easy is hands down the most popular gun right now with women and men who don't like a heavy slide, because you can pull the slide back on that gun with 2 fingers. I mean, it's just very easy. And it also has minimal recoil, even though it's not a 1911, which is interesting to me. I don't know how Smith & Wesson did that, but they answered all the complaints people had about guns. I mean, for women that said, I can't rack the slide, they made the slide easy. For women who said, I can't load the magazine, it breaks my fingernails, I can't do that, they put on the M&P Easy, there's actually a load assist that you can press down and just drop the bullets in. So, they dealt with that issue. And then women that didn't like recoil, they made the gun with minimal recoil. And then they also, for people who are uncomfortable carrying a gun loaded and chambered, which, by the way, I would not carry a gun without a bullet in the chamber. Okay, you might as well be carrying a rock. Most people do not have the tactical skill in a crisis to rack a slide and get a suspect in their sights. They'll freeze, you'll be shaking, you'll be scared, and you'll mess with the slide and may end up getting a double feed or a jam. So you don't want to do that. You need to carry your gun loaded and chambered. So for women and men who said, I'm not comfortable carrying a gun with a bullet in the chamber, Smith & Wesson M&P Easy made that gun with a double safety. You can get it with double safety. It's got a mechanical safety that you can flip up and down, and it also has an extra safety in the grip right here. So even if your mechanical safety gets flipped off in your purse or whatever, or you accidentally bump it, this gun still, if you pull the trigger, it still will not shoot unless you are pressing into this grip. So that's what they call a double safety. So for people who are really new with guns and scared, that's a scared to carry because they're afraid it's going to go off, that is a nice little added touch. Let's see. I think the other issue is holster. How are you going to carry a gun? And I showed you in an earlier class all the different options. But when you're buying a gun, you need to be thinking about that. How am I going to carry this gun? And that will have a lot to do too with what gun you pick. Okay. So, any questions? No?
There's a fourth gun you mentioned. That was a good one.
Okay.